really happy that we're both here.
Mm.
I'm really excited to be able to start this new project and having you, to be the first person to come and join me and have a conversation about whatever life, joys and downtime and everything in between. So tell me, you were saying earlier that you're taking some classes, correct? You're taking something regarding, you were talking about the Fibonacci number, but I don't know.
So that is a class that I'm co-facilitating right now. It's a nature school for children.
Nature school.
It's a homeschooling
Okay.
program, enrichment program. And it's really beautiful. This woman that I met, her intention was to bring the children outside of the classroom, of course, and then go back into nature. So we spend from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m. in nature. Our themes are elemental. So maybe we're working with, for a couple of weeks, fire element, maybe air element, water element, and we've gone through all 4 elements now, I believe. And so this is a summer session. Summer session, she thought to incorporate the Fibonacci sequence. So that's something that I wasn't necessarily familiar with, but then I started exploring because I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to teach about Fibonacci sequence? And you've heard of Fibonacci sequence.
Correct. I am aware with it, yeah.
Okay, so for those who are not aware of the Fibonacci sequence, it is this reoccurring pattern that this individual discovered way back in time. And we find this pattern in all things in nature. And we find this pattern in sacred geometry.
Okay.
And so I think that a lot of humans tend to associate that sequence with architecture, man-made things. But if you really zoom out and begin to explore it and then witness its truer origins, maybe more natural origins in a natural setting outside of what we are currently creating with our hands, like I was telling you about snorkeling in the ocean. And snorkeling with that sea turtle that was near me, and I'm looking at the pattern on the back of the sea turtle's shell, and when I count that pattern, there is a Fibonacci number. And so why this is important is because it reveals to us that there is a blueprint from who? From God. God is the universe, source, spirit, creator, creature, whatever you want to call it, whatever word you're going to use there.
Correct.
And that reconnects us with all things. Like we have 2 hands, right? 2 is a Fibonacci number. We have 2 eyes. We have 1 nose. And then you can even go down to like, oh, goodness gracious. You can count petals on a flower. And then you start to count even other objects like pine cones. And when you're counting on the pine cones, it creates this spiral, and the spirals end up assigned to a Fibonacci number.
And also, like, I think I have heard, and I have seen also the waves, right? The waves of the ocean. And I believe that's also something I don't recall who I was listening to, and they were talking about that particular thing, that also waves, the way they form, it creates the spiral, the golden, which is called the golden ratio. The golden ratio. It's also how it starts to create a wave from the beginning. There was also the honeycombs, the bees, honeybee combs, right? Correct.
Yep.
I think they also have to do with Fibonacci, I think.
Yep.
So, excuse me. So how long have you been doing that now? How long have you been assisting this lady with the school?
Oh gosh, it's been. I think I started earlier this year. I've assisted now for 1 semester. My children were in the first semester, so it's only gone 2 semesters, and then now the summer enrichment program. So it's been really fun.
So you started this because of your kids?
Because of my kids.
Is that the reason why, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you have 2 kids?
I have 2 kids. They're twins.
They're twins. And how old are they?
They just turned 6.
6. And remind me their names again.
Jack and Elise.
Jack and Elise. Those are pretty cool names.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool names. And they're twins.
They're twins, and they're Gemini twins.
They're really?
So
I didn't know that.
Gemini is the sign of the twin.
Yeah.
So some people say I have 4 kids.
Well, how do you feel about that?
I love it. I wouldn't have it.
Do you really feel like you have 4 kids?
I can see that. I can see the different parts of themselves. But they're brilliant. They're pretty. I feel like I'm kind of a woo-woo spiritual person, and my children are the same.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have shared with me a couple of things that your kids are so, obviously because of seeing you, and, kids are like little sponges, right? They follow what their parents do. But I think that for all this time that I know you, which is probably going to say, about a year now that we have known each other?
It's our 1-year anniversary.
Yeah, right. Something like that.
Friendship.
And I think it's you have such a cool vibe about you, and I haven't had a chance to meet your kids yet, but I'm sure you've shown me videos and I've seen pictures of them, but I can see that they are pretty cool kids, right? And they are like, you shared with me one time that your daughter wanted to move water. Is that what she was trying to do?
Yes, she was. Yes, she was. We were outside, and we were I was playing with sidewalk chalk, and I think my son was also doing little doodles too. But I was creating this like mural. I mean, it was taking time. It was taking a lot of time. And so while we were out there, I asked him, "Oh, you want to bring out my yoga blankets? What do you want to do? You want to create your little spaces? You want to bring out snacks?" And they're like, "Yeah." So then she has this idea. She's like, "Mommy, I think I'm going to work on moving water." And I'm like, "All right, babe, whatever you want. I support you. It sounds great." So she brings out she's like, I need a mug. Okay. So I bring out the mug. I fill it with some water. She's like, I give her this like scarf that I have, wrap it around her, drape it around her. And then she starts, puts her hands open wide, and she's like very focused and meditating, and she's aiming to move the water. And so I'm just kind of talking, guiding her like, "All right, sweetheart. Okay. Clear your mind. Just be one with your breath. Start to breathe. And then, channel your intention. Your intention is to move water today." She like opens one eye and looks at me. She's like, "Mommy, I'm focusing on moving water."
Like, stop talking.
Oh, I thought I was being helpful. She's like, "Can you just put on some yoga music, please?" So they're so funny. They're still humans. They're still little humans.
that is exactly right. It's I don't have a kids, and I'm not planning on, but my sister has. I have so many nephews. I have a lot of nephews and nieces, but we grew up almost like brothers because they're about the same age that I am, and also my youngest sister, other nephews and nieces are about her age. So one thing that I did notice is that we grew up as brothers and sisters, almost. There was not that differentiation between, oh, that's your nephew and that is your niece, right?
Right.
So now with my youngest sister, she has 2 little girls. She's 5, gonna be 6, Violeta, and Jimena is gonna be, she's gonna turn 2. But I see how amazing to see these little people becoming people, right? Like they start like so little, like they cannot even walk. A few months later they're crawling.
Yeah.
A few months later they're starting to walk, and then a few months later they're running around. And see their personalities change. You can see even their faces like starting to change. Certain features starting to become more mature, or whatever it is that happens in their face that is just like, it's amazing to see a person grow.
Oh, for
I guess
sure.
That's what I'm getting to. Something that like I say, I haven't had the experience to do it myself, but used to see it with my nieces. It's pretty freaking special, right?
Yeah, it is.
It's pretty freaking special. they're still, obviously they are still my blood. I mean, they're not so much my responsibility because, like I just play with them, once they get all cranky, it's like, okay, back to your mama. I don't want to deal with you right now. But it is something super special to see these little people grow, Give me 1 second. Let me put a pause on this really quick, and we're back. So anyways, yeah, so what I was just saying, about my seeing kids growing up. It's really, really magical, and one of my fears, I think one of my biggest fears, and one of my reasons why I probably never, well, not never. Obviously, there was a point in my life when I thought about I wanted to have kids. But I will never forget, my mom used to babysit. And this kid, his name was Maddox, is Maddox. And I think I saw her changing his diaper so many times that I was like, I don't ever want to do this. For whatever reason, like I was like, hell no.
It just grossed you out?
Yeah. Yeah. It was something that really grossed me out. I am extremely sensitive with smells. Excuse me. I am definitely very sensitive with smells. Like, if someone smells good, like I'm like, oh. I'm really attracted to a good smell. And so, but yeah, when it comes to that bad smells, the same thing. I'm like, ugh, like even little smells. I don't know. I don't know if a lot of people are sensitive as I am, but so that was one of the things where I was like, well, I don't want to have kids. And I remember I sat down with my parents one day and we were having lunch, and I was like, yeah, I don't know about this. They're like, what? I'm like, I don't know if I really want to have kids. My dad was like, what do you mean?
But it couldn't have just been about the diapers and the smell.
At that moment it was. I was
really?
22 years. I was 22. And I kid you not. That was it. At least that I remember. And then eventually, obviously the expenses and everything else that comes in between, right? Like, I mean, I'm just minimizing it to the smells of poop, which is probably the least of my worries, right? You as a mom are probably looking at me like, going like, yeah, dude, like.
There's something about that though. You're right. You're not, I think that's very relatable. But there's something about it's your own child. So I think that you have that natural instinct to be okay with it. I've smelled other people's kids poop and I'm like, ugh, no. But there's something about your own child. But what's interesting about that aspect of the American dream, maybe something that we're conditioned into thinking, or not even just the American dream, but the intention of us being humans and continuing to procreate and create, right? To produce and create and continue on life. We met this woman on our flight recently when we went to Cozumel, my partner and I, and we're talking with her, and she, she's saying that she came down to Cancun to explore a wedding venue, and she's very girly and very bubbly, yeah. And she is, you could tell she maybe had some work done on her body, and she's just like, she's in it. She's in the human experience.
Right.
And she's like, I'm so excited to get married, and I love my guy, and he's so wonderful, and she speaks very highly of him. She's like, but he really wants to have kids, and I'm thinking for our wedding, I don't really want any kids to be there. And our extended family members have kids, and I'm seeing the spot, and I'm like, I don't know if I really want kids around, and then it made me start to think, do I want to have kids? And like, I don't really want to have kids. She's like, because those women look tired, and then their whole body changed. I'm trying to look like this, and I'm trying to stay like this. So I just had this moment where I'm thinking about, just that concept. I'll call it the American dream for now, and what we're conditioned and raised to believe that we need to do, that we need to be, And I feel like there was an aspect of that in me through conditioning via my parents, who are still married to this day, to via external conditioning, like the fairy tales that we read and that we see in movies, that one day I wanted to fall in love and get married and have kids. And I'm an only child, so I wanted to have like 5 kids. I'm thinking I want to be like a mama pato. I want to be like a mama duck with all my little ducklings. And
Right.
and so eventually I fell in love, as the story tells you to do, right? You fall in love, you get married, and you have kids. And I was blessed. I really feel blessed to have the 2 children that I have. And then a divorce. And when I divorced and then met my current partner, who my current partner also had fallen in love with his high school sweetheart, been married for many, many years. I think they were together for at least 20 years. Had children, also 3 children, and then separated. We are now coming together in relationship, and I'm thinking to myself, and he's thinking to himself, and we're talking out loud about it. What is the intention then? And I had this almost like epiphany, and he was also expressing it too. We were in alignment with it of, well, we already did that. We already fulfilled the American dream, and we were conditioned to believe that we need to fall in love, get married, have kids, have a house, do those things. So now what? Is that what we're going to do again?
Right.
We're going to be in love, and we're going to get married, and maybe we'll have like another kid, or what's happening here? And that wasn't our collective intention. And so then I'm thinking, oh, well, then what's the point?
Is that
what's the
how you
point?
felt? Is
Yeah.
that what crossed your mind
Yeah.
at some point?
Like, what's the purpose then? If we're not going to do those things, I don't know. It was just kind of like a trip. It
Right.
was just a little trip for me.
Right.
And then I realized, well, wait a second. If that was something that we're conditioned to do, and we really accomplished it, whether I'm not saying that's a bad conditioning. I'm just saying it's kind of a thing that we're all
Right.
taught
Society
to
taught
do. Right.
people, yeah, correct.
So now what will be our purpose then in relationship? I think our purpose in relationship now is truly to love one another and to love ourselves. And in that sense, I feel like it turned into this really like expanded, like liberated experience of relationship where there is not a pressure. So to have children, to get married, into like a contract experience, and it's just kind of different. But
No, I think you are you're right about that, because in my instance, coming from the Mexican conservative family, religious family, where once again, it's about having kids, right? It's proliferate, like have as many kids as you want, and obviously, if anything, maybe that is just my perception of it, but I think for me it was more like it's almost like a tradition, right? It's like you have to have kids because it's like the cycle of life, right? You find someone, once again, you have kids, you have 10 kids, that those 10 kids are, like they're going to take care of you when you grow old, and, and very different from what American families experience, right? Which for them is like, in a Mexican family, Hispanic culture, I'm not just want to say Mexicans because I'm stuck in Mexicans because that's my experience with my
Right.
traditions. But it's like, once you grow old, your kids are going to take care of you. That is a given. Like, I don't want to generalize it, but for the most part, that's how it is. Like, you have kids, you know that when you're going to grow old, your kids are going to take care of you, and that's it. Here is different, right? Here, once you grow old, your kids cannot wait to put you in a home.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, it's really sad.
Yeah.
Right? It's really sad how, and once again, I'm not generalizing, but a lot of people do that, right? A lot of people, and I see it. I mean, sometimes there are times where they need a lot of extra attention.
Absolutely.
It's not a bad thing, But my sister used to work at a home care center, literally right across the street, and she worked there for, I want to say, for like probably 4 or 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And she saw that. She saw how sometimes they could just drop the elders and not visit them for months.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have it, and it was an Alzheimer's center, so most of those people that were there had issues with Alzheimer. And but it was very sad to see this. It was very sad to see these people being dropped off, and months would go by and nobody would come and visit them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not. I mean, I don't even want to say that don't know if they exist. I'm sure they exist in the Hispanic community, those centers as well, because once again, there are times when people need extra care, and
Right.
sometimes you're not available. You cannot do it, right? Anyways, I think I went off a little bit off on something else, but what I was trying to say with my point is like, after having that experience with a kid, right, where I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I want to smell the poop, right? For me, it became more of I thought a lot about it, very, very hard. Like, what is the point, or what would be the purpose for me to bring kids into this life, right?
Yeah.
Back in my 20s, I'm like, well, I don't think I can make enough money to give them the life that they need, right? Because my family struggled when we moved here. My parents struggled. I mean, I don't know how my father did that. 3 kids, living in Mexico, because he was older. He wasn't able to get a job. So in Mexico, the laws when it comes to employment are very weird. And I don't even think that they are laws. They are just what it is. I think once you get to be 35, you're old. You're considered old. Like, even if you want to go work at an office job, 35, 40, you go find a job somewhere else, because they will not hire. Yeah. So only if you're like on your 20s. I'm not so sure if that has changed now, but I know that used to be like the case a lot. So imagine my dad was in his 50s. He needed to move here, and brought all of us. And you seen the fortitude of that man bringing a family here, right? And starting from literally zero. I think he had back then, we had like $1,500 on his pocket, and that's it. This is 1994.
Wow.
So with inflation, maybe now we're talking maybe like $4,000, maybe something like that. Anyways, so I'm pretty sure that experience kind of like put some kind of like a trauma, if anything, trauma, or I don't know, where I was like, I don't know if I want to go through this. Not that I was going to ever go through it, but I didn't want to experience anything like that. I wanted to avoid any type of stress related situations with a family of my own. I avoided it as much as I could. And that's why for me, like, during my 20s, plus adding the poop, the diaper changing, and all of that, it was very difficult for me to like, well, do I really want to do this? I mean, I make enough money, but I don't think I make enough money to have a family, to support a family. Then, fell in love once. It didn't work out. And then I realized, okay, well, if I wanted to have kids, I need to be with someone that has to be in the same wavelength that I am, right?
Yeah.
In every aspect. For me, it was like, it had to be someone that we both be connected at that level. Like, so we're going to raise a family. This is what we're both going to do to be able to bring those kids, to raise those kids to be good humans.
Were your parents connected in every wavelength like that?
No. And yes, But at the same time, I don't think anybody else, personally,
Yeah.
I don't think that exists.
Yeah.
But that is something that I
Mm-hmm.
told myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, because I saw it and I've seen how difficult it is to raise a kid, 2, 3 kids. I sat with my family. I sat with my mom, my dad. But then again, it's kind of contradictory what I'm saying, right? Because I'm like, I come from a family where it struggled like that, but I'm better now, right? I'm a better human being. I had to go through these struggles to achieve what I have achieved. Same with my sisters. Um, but in my head, I wanted perfection.
Mm.
And I don't know if that idea hindered me from maybe wanting to have a kid, wanting to have a family. I don't regret it, at any point. I don't feel like, oh my god, maybe I did miss out. Maybe if I could have gone with, have a kid with any woman or whatever women I was dating, I'm sure right now those kids would be great or not. I don't know. But in my stupid head, that was my perfect ideal, is to be with someone that we would have to be both in sync.
Hmm.
Maybe once again, wanting to avoid stresses, wanting to avoid issues, but at the same time, it's like, and as much as you are too, I know this is like, we are true believers that you have to struggle to be a better human, right? You have
Absolutely.
to go through these downs, you know, as much as you go through these highs in order to understand and achieve what you're brought up to this world, right?
For sure.
But then again, I didn't want to do that because I didn't think I could find the right person to raise my kids with if I ever
Mm.
had kids. I know
Mm.
it's kind of confusion. I know it's kind of like, wait, what? But in my head, that's how I always thought. Like, we both had to be, because of what I've seen, because
Mhm.
what I have experienced with family members, with people that I know. But that's the path I chose, and right now I'm like, once again, I don't think I will be having kids, and I'm at peace with that. I feel good about it. But yeah. So, anyways, family.
Yeah, it's such an interesting concept. Love um and then love's harvest or love's fruit. Like what comes of the love and the relationship and um having children and some type of like your legacy. Sometimes people, identify children as their legacy. And even right now when you said you're like, oh, from my stupid head, I'm like, Leo, almost rolling my eyes internally. Now I'll say it out loud. Your stupid head. Which is not stupid whatsoever. We're here in your home sanctuary. We just spent the last hour looking at every piece. Every piece has so much intention, most of which, you have created and handpicked and have been called toward, and there's story and you're brilliant. You're brilliant
Thank you,
head.
sweetie. I appreciate you.
Of course, but our words really create worlds. So that's something that I've been like very intentional about lately. Like things that we have to do or need to do, like rephrasing that into I get to do this. I get to, and actually my partner inspired that too. But I have to go to the bank. I have to get gas. I get to go to the bank because I have a job. I'm very blessed in that. I have to get gas. Well, I get to go get gas because I have a truck, right? I have a car, I have a vehicle.
Right.
I'm very blessed in that. So I just kind of like been noticing different things about our words and our phrasings and how our words are truly creating worlds.
And that is so true. That is definitely something that I have believed in a while. Is to be very conscious about every word that we say and how we say it, right? Because there are a few words that I do my best. I was gonna say try, right? And that's one word that I try not to use. Because I mean, at least in my head, it means it's like when you try, it's like you already put it in your head that you're gonna fail, right? You're giving yourself that you're allowing yourself to fail by saying try instead of saying I'm gonna do it, whether you fail or not. That is a different story.
I like that.
Do you know what I mean?
I like that.
Whether you fail or not or succeed doesn't matter.
I like that.
It's the fact that when you say I'm gonna try. I heard it a long time ago. Many, many years back, I heard somebody say that and explaining it, and I can't remember who that person was. And so saying trying, you're already setting yourself up to failure.
Interesting.
By saying, I'm going to do my best, whether you fail or not. I mean, you don't know if you're going to fail or not until you try, until you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So try is a word that I try to avoid, that I do my best to avoid. Always.
Yeah, I do that a lot. It's speaking in hyperbole.
Right.
Always, never.
Never.
Yeah.
Right? It's like that. I mean, that is something that everybody does. But if you really pay attention to those words, then you realize, yeah, I don't think if I really want to use these words, like always. Always. I mean, always. Like, oh, I'm always going to be there for you. Well, are you really? Are you going to really try to be there always?
I'm going to do my best to be there for you as much as I can.
As much as I can. You see? By just changing those words, you are saying the same thing in a better way,
Mm-hmm.
And then you're not. Oh, and one more word. Promise. I mean, if there is a word that I avoid at all times, not like try, that I use like 10,000 times in the last 5 minutes, is promise. I don't promise anything to anyone. Yeah. Nobody. I learned my lesson that whenever you say, oh, I promise, I mean, it's like, what if something happens and you're not able to do what you say you were because life got in the way, right?
Oh, trust. I feel that, and I feel that really deeply, Leo, because it's like, because I experienced divorce, and I'm very intentional about the way that I live my life, my choices, who I am as a person. And in my relationships, platonic or intimate, I do the best that I can to be committed and there for that individual. And in the divorce experience, I felt a lot of blame, shame against myself because I broke a promise. And that is something that, my ex-husband said to me at some point, but what about our vows? What about the promises that we made to each other? And it's like, whoa, it's fascinating. In that experience itself, marriage, if you are legally, quote unquote, married according to the system, there's a contract involved. You signed a contract with somebody to say that you're in love with them to the point where I will eternally, for better or for worse, be with you. I promise.
Right.
Ooh.
Right. And you add to that, because a lot of people, maybe not anymore, like obviously generations are changing. But even back in the day, I mean, you're on your 20s. How old were you when you got married?
26.
Okay, so 26. So your brain was almost fully developed.
At what year are our brains?
27.
Oh, really?
25, 27, I believe. Yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
That's
because then
kind of
again, that's maybe
interesting.
that's when you were starting to realize, like, wait a second, like, okay, so what am I? You know what I mean? And back in
Right.
the day, you really pay attention, and people are getting married when they're in their 20, 21, 22. My mom got married when she was 21,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like
Mm-hmm.
you barely learning how to talk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're really just learning how to put sentences together,
Yeah.
and let alone now you're marrying and promising your life to someone for the, like you say, for the rest of your life, for better or for worse. Which, believe me, I'm sure, and I have seen people that have been able to achieve that.
Yes.
I'm not saying that it doesn't work,
Mm.
but does it work for everybody,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And that's where it's like, why does it have to be this way?
Right.
As opposed to like, well, do what suits you, what makes you happy, what brings joy to yourself, to you and the people around you. As opposed to, well, if you don't get married, it's like, wait, what? Like, why? You know? And so you were making a point. Were you making a point, or was I making a point before we started getting into the whole marriage thing? Oh, you were talking about the promise thing.
Promises.
The promises.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I with the whole promise aspect, and then let's zoom in on that, on maybe just that as an example, as contract marriage, right? You've never been married.
I have not. No.
Okay.
I was engaged, but never married.
Okay. And when you were engaged, you proposed. That's you.
Right.
It was a you thing.
Right.
You thought you wanted to spend the rest of your life with that person.
Absolutely, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Really?
It's something that it's yeah. I was definitely like, you think that you found the person that you're gonna be, for the rest of your life, and you realize that, well, it didn't really turn out that way, right? I mean, now in hindsight, like, it's for the better.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have shared with you, like, I have definitely become a better human being, a better person, a better partner, a better friend, a better brother.
Yes.
And but at that moment, you realize, like, it's for forever, it's forever until it's not, right?
Right.
Like you say, like, oh, it's gonna be forever until it isn't, because people do change.
For sure.
Life happens, situations happens. For example, when I was engaged to this person, I was 30 and she was 22. Again, 22 years old, literally a child, right? But then again, I'm 30, so for me, the age difference was never cited like, excuse me, like a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But now I look back and I'm like, wow, that was a huge difference. I mean, that person still needed to experience a lot of things in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And once again, it didn't work out. We both went our ways. But yeah, it is an interesting concept to say, like, oh, I'm gonna be with this person until death.
Well, because
do us apart.
Yeah, and also your future forecasting, your future tripping, you're making a claim in this present moment now that this is what's going to take place and continue to take place for the X number of years ahead. I mean, in everything that I have looked into and observed with yoga, meditation, various texts like A Course in Miracles. If you've ever heard of A Course in Miracles.
I have not. I don't
know. Spiritual mentors, Ram Dass.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? We are, and even in the Tao Te Ching, many, many different texts. The Yoga Sutras of Patanjali.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
We are invited into this present moment now. So contracts and promises then too are so they're just a man-made construct, because what do we really know about the future? Again,
I'm sorry, but in a sense, it's putting a lot of stress and anxiety on yourself because now you have to fulfill this contract and this promise, right?
yeah, I agree. I agree with it. And again, I think that it's possible.
Right.
It's possible. It's just whatever you're intending upon in that moment. Are you you know, you can make whatever happen.
Right. That is so interesting what you say, because at the same time it's like I see myself, for example, you know, and your partner, me and my partner, is like, in my case, and I'm talking about myself, but it's we both talk and we both agree that we are used. Yeah, we obviously we have future plans, right? Like I think it is important to have future plans, but it is we really enjoy our present moment.
Yes.
And if there is someone, you know, like it's really interesting how this concept that I didn't really understood until I started, you know, dating her. It's to have a friendship, and how important it is to have a friendship, because you know you grow up once again, you know, with a concept of like, oh, find, you know, that perfect family and this and that, and you see someone and you immediately fall in love. You know, which in this case, you know, like happened to you, you know, like what you have shared with me, you
Sure
know.
did.
You know, but it's like not that I was not attracted to her, you know, I saw her and I was immediately like drawn to her and I was like, wow, you know, like, you know, but it was really interesting because she was going through a separation, and obviously, you know, she had other priorities,
Right.
right? Which I respected.
Mm-hmm.
And but during that time we were able to build a very strong friendship.
Mm.
You know, it's and that is something that I really admire, you know, from her too. And I thank her for that now, because it has shown me to appreciate that strong foundation that I would recommend that everybody should have, right? Once again, it doesn't work for everybody. Everybody's experiences are different, are their own. In this situation, myself is I was able to now something that we say to each other is like, you know what, I love you, but at the same time, I like you.
Mm.
You know, and it's knowing the distinction between the two, right? It's like it's so important to like the person that you love, because you can love somebody, but you don't, you know, sometimes you don't like them,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So to like that person and to love the person, I think it's a great combination, and that's where I'm at right now. You know, where I'm like having my best friend, you know, and living the present moment. Once again, there's future plans, but we're living, you know, day by day, enjoying each other's company, enjoying laughs and, you know, and everything else in between. But yeah, I mean, it's really really, really cool to have that friendship. You know, personally, like I believe that it's like, and once again, it's something that I never experienced before, because you immediately jump into like, boom, I'm already in love with this
Mm.
person, right? And I believe like something that happens in there, at least in my situation, my personal experience, is that there's no room to see the flaws or red flags of this other person once, because you know when you start as a relationship, there's that um, infatuation phase, right? Where
For sure.
everything that person does or everything that happens, you don't see it, because you're so in love with the person, right? It's like, oh, I'm sure it's gonna go away. Oh, I'm sure, you know, that's no big deal, you know. And then when those 6 months, usually it's like a 6 month period of time, you know, to a year, when that goes away, now you're like, well, I don't tolerate that from them.
Mhm.
And you're like, well, you were in it for a year and you didn't do anything about it. Now what are you gonna do? You know?
Right.
So I think it is definitely very important to have those 6 to a year month where 6 months. Well, I'm not saying that friendship for 6 months, but I'm saying like having that period of time where you see like, well, can I tolerate this about this person? That person snores, or that person chews, right? Certain little things that might not be important, but down the road, after 10, 15, 20 years, you're like, holy shit, do I really want to put up with it, right? But anyway, so that is my experience when it comes to that. But share with me, like, how was your, if you want to share with,
Sure.
like, how was your experience, because it is a little bit different to what I have experienced.
Yeah, for sure. I have this tattoo on my finger. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It says "One Love,"
No.
and the intention of this tattoo was that, from a very young age, I told myself, I declared that I would never say I love you until I meant it. And I felt just tremendous reverence toward love. My parents are still together to this day. They've been together, what are they at now? Maybe 34 years? 34 years? I mean, that's a really long time. And, excuse me, they have very different views. I would say that they have similar underlying values, core values. However, for example, growing up, my mom was raised Catholic, and my father, he was a hippie. They were very poor. His mother left him. He had I think there were 8 or 9 children altogether. I forget.
On your dad's side.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And she left at some point, and the older ones were raising the younger ones. I mean, he just has had like a lot of heavy experiences to navigate in his upbringing. So he felt like there's no God. He doesn't say that he believes in God. He thinks it's all just kind of an accident.
Okay, would you say that he's kind of like an atheist, more of like not believing even on a major source or?
Nope.
Okay.
Yep. He just really, if anything, he says he kind of aligns with, or I've heard him say at times he aligns with Buddhism.
Okay.
And being just really being a good person, and
okay.
and that yes, there is suffering. He just acknowledges that there is tremendous suffering, and that you're gonna do what you can to work through it and with it. But he has never really actually processed his own traumas. But anyways, that's a story for another day. So my parents were very different. And my mom and I, we would pray, and we had this connection with God. She would listen to these meditation tapes of angels. And I mean, I was 5 years old, and I'd lay there and I'd listen with her. And we've had really cool experiences with all that. And so together, I would ask them, oh, what should I believe in? Is there a God? Is there not a God? Even down to politics. My dad was maybe more a Democrat or more liberal. My mom, because raised Catholic, she was a little bit more conservative, Republican. And I'm asking again at some point in my teenage years, what is right? What should I believe? And they're like, well, they would never tell me what was quote unquote right. They would always say, what do you think? They wouldn't even start with what they thought. I just, through time, could probably assume what they thought.
That is brilliant of them. I mean, I know that the story continues, and I'm sure that I stopped you, but I mean, the fact that they were not trying to pull you to their side and be like, no, you have to do it this way, or you have to do it that way. The fact that I allow you to critically think on your own and be like, what do you think? I think that's really freaking cool from your parents.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm sorry.
That's okay. There's great blessing within that. For sure. And I think that it has definitely shaped me into who I am today, that can hold space for non-duality. Right? It's not this or that. It is maybe both. But anyways, so that's how they were. I lost my train of thought.
So you were saying about your mom and your dad, about how different they were, and you were laying with your mom, listening to like meditations of angels and stuff like that. So talking about pretty much the love that they had for each other, right?
Right. Oh, the love, the tattoo.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought their love was fantastic. I witnessed them go through tremendous hardships, crazy moments in time where I thought, oh my God, as a child, are they going to divorce? There were moments in time where I thought, I'm out of here unless they divorce. I wanted it, but still they remained together and they found a way to work through these different, the roller coaster of life. So I looked up to that in a sense. And so I thought, okay, I'm not going to say I love you to somebody until I really genuinely mean it. And I value a committed relationship, and one day I would like to be married, and that will be that. And I don't foresee myself getting a divorce. That wouldn't make sense. I would be with that partner, and that would be the partner. And since that moment in time where I did the stamp on my body with the tattoo.
How old were you when you got that tattoo?
Maybe 19. Shortly thereafter, I ended up meeting my first love. And it was just like a storybook. He was in the Marine Corps. He was on deployment. We, declared I love. We probably met maybe 2-3 months before his deployment. We're absolutely in love with each other.
Right.
And then he was gone for almost a whole entire year, and we're sending care packages and letters every single day. And he's sending flowers and making sure his presence was known and felt. And it was a fairy tale experience.
Right.
And he was drastically different than who I was. He was like a cowboy from the East Coast, and me, I'm this Southern California girl, and we were just very, very different. And those differences, I think, just kind of ended up revealing to me that I was almost changing myself a little bit to be in a relationship with that person. Though I was open to, exploring and being a cowgirl, maybe moving to the East Coast and being on a farm, and no, it just wasn't for me. I then met my second love, and he was more like me, and there was a lot of liberation within that experience. I felt like I could really be myself. It ended up kind of fading out. He had his own traumas that as it turns out, he was also in the military. He was on a deployment, and he witnessed his best friend. He witnessed and assisted his best friend being blown up, stepping on a explosive device.
Oh my God.
Lost both legs and an arm, carried his body. So he at some point moved to be the caregiver for his friend. And I supported him in that, and we had a long distance relationship. But through that whole traumatic experience, his own personal experience, tending to his friend, he came back. And when we, came back, and at that time, we don't have like the iPhones that we have today, where you just talk on video FaceTime exactly anytime you want. No, we had like older phones.
Right, flip like that Nokia's.
Exactly. If you wanted to, you would maybe open up your laptop and then talk on Skype, but you need to assign a time to do that.
Right.
So it was a different time. And when he came back across the states to move in together.
And I'm sorry, how long has it been now from when you guys were together until
from that experience? I think, oh goodness, maybe at least a year.
Okay.
At least a year. You could tell. Right when he drove up, in that moment, we're moving into our apartment together. I arranged everything.
Feel it.
He just was a totally different person. His energy was just like. And in that moment, I just knew.
Was it heartbreaking?
Oh, it was so sad, Leo.
Was it sad to be like, to have that feeling of like, it's not the same?
I really thought he was going to be my person. I really thought that he was. There were little things, again, those like almost, they're not red flags, but just aspects of another individual that they verbally tell you, and you're like, okay. Well, that's all right. Even though that's not one of my values, like I'll look past it because I love you. And he told me that he didn't really want to have kids. He didn't want to have kids, but that's such a desire within me to have children my whole life, as far as I can remember. But anyways, and so that, again, it also faded out. So I've had, to this day, I have had 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 5. I've said I love you 5 times. And I witness within me through reflecting back in my timeline of experiences, the evolution of me. I am not at all the same person I was when I was 20 and saying I love you for the very first time that I am now today at 33 years old. That's only 13. It's only 13 years ago. That's not a long time. It's a decade and then some. So maybe perhaps it is, but I just feel like in 13 years, you change so incredibly much from the time from your 20s to now I can talk about my 30s. I'm just drastically different. I recently not ran into, but was around the presence of that first love.
Oh, really?
Yes. So
How did that go?
My best friend's mom is like a grandma. She's like a mom to me. And she's grandma to my little ones. And so she was, taking care of my little ones probably while I was at work. And he was coming to visit her. He has a relationship with her too. We met through one of her daughters. And so he came out for a visit. And this was the first time I'd seen him since I broke up with him.
Did you know he was coming at all?
Yeah, they told me.
Okay.
They told me.
Okay.
And so I just thought that's like an interesting experience in life. You don't always get to that, that to happen.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I do. I have that, little bit of guilt inside that's like, ugh, I broke up with him. I hurt him. And not only did I break up with him, but then I moved on quite quickly with someone else. But he came around and he, what it felt like was still holding on to some type of like, I should apologize to him for that period of time, which again, I just take all of my experiences and I reflect. I like zoom out and I observe all my experiences and I'm like, wow, to carry something from so long, we're absolutely not the same people that we were in time. But we ended up having like a kind of a cool conversation around it all. So,
I definitely believe like what you said right now. You know how you told yourself, like I'm only gonna say I love you to the one person, right?
Yeah.
To one person only.
Yeah.
But isn't it crazy how you did say I love you to the one person only, and you're really looking hindsight at that stage of your life. That was a person that you love, right? And a lot of times we don't think about it like that. We say like, oh my God, how could I ever date this person? Oh my God, how could I ever? I get it. Maybe those people, I mean, unless these people beat you up and abusive, verbally abusive, physically, in every aspect. Oh yeah, like how so glad that you're done with that thing, But situations like this, you did love that person at that moment in life.
Yeah.
At that, I did say I have said I love you 3 times, and I think those are I've been in 4 relationships. One doesn't really count because I was kind of like forced into it. Not that I was not really, but I'm saying that. But the other 3 is like the first one I was like 24. Still like you said earlier. Like you said that it's been a decade and some years since you said I love you to the first person. But as a woman, it's different for a guy, right? Women mature faster than guys. So for me, in my situation, it's like, I don't even remember saying I love you to my first relationship. To be honest with you, that was a really really interesting relationship because we were more friends than we were romantic partners. Like after we broke up, we became really good friends, even up until now. Once in a while, she became my sister's best friend. So she still stayed in touch, with my family. My mom, my dad, they like her a lot. We say hello once in a while. I mean, she has even actually made Deborah. And the one thing that I also appreciate about Deborah is the fact that she's so chill about it. She doesn't feel in any way, shape, or form threatened or insecure by other person, and that it's so valuable for me than most things. It's like to have that one person being like, "Hey, it's the past. It happened," and I respect that so much personally. Well, anyway, so like I said, I don't recall saying I love you, but I'm sure we'd say that. And it was more like, "Hey, love you," you know, kind of like, "Hey," you know, I'm not really feeling it, but it's been 3 years. We actually probably did it like 4.5 years, where it's like, I think we have to say love you or something, right? The second person, you know, was the person that I was engaged with, and same thing with that. Yeah, we were more. It was more of a definitely more not just friends. And okay, here's the thing. So check this out. As I'm talking to you right now, I'm having this epiphany. It's with my first partner. We were very friends, very good friends, right? That it was more of a romantic relationship.
Okay.
The person that I was engaged to, we were. It was definitely more romantically involved. That we were not friends.
Interesting. What do you mean by you were not friends? Like, what is it?
Like meaning like what I have experienced with my first partner and with Deborah right now, like where we're able to share each other's stories and tell each other things and be okay with it. I remember I couldn't even tell a story to the other person because she would not take it the right way. Like she would, for example, I was telling this stupid story about this something that happened, you know, where I work, and this guy something this to this girl, and I'm laughing, you know, I'm like, oh my god, can you believe this happened? And she immediately went into saying, have you done it? Instead of her saying like, oh my god, that is so hilarious, her first response was,
Wow.
are you doing that?
Wow.
So it was kind of like, wait, I'm sharing this with you because I think it's funny, you know. It's like in her eyes, her perception was, I'm not okay with it, and I'm pretty sure you're doing that in her, you know, in the back of her head. So that right there puts already a barrier, and it doesn't allow me to share with her anymore. So like that friendship part, it was not there. Everything, every single thing that I said, or every, you know, and I'm not saying that I was a perfect guy. I'm just talking about this particular situation, right? When I want to share stuff with her, and the other person takes it into a completely different path, right? And with Deb right now, it's a combination of both. And that's what I was having that epiphany right now, where it's like, oh my God, you're right. Like now with her, like we have that friendship and we have that romantic relationship, right? So what I was saying is like, in different times of my life, my experience, I have loved. There's no doubt about it. It's been different loves.
Yeah, it's been different loves.
But I have loved.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why it's like, when it comes down to the whole concept of love, right? It is very romanticized.
For sure it is.
Extremely romanticized what love is. Oh, love is perfection. Love is, you know, like always kissing and hugging and all these things. But is it really? You know, like in real life, what is love? And every person has their own understanding of what love is to them. Would you agree with me on that?
Oh yeah.
On that, you know, where it's like, yeah, love is very interesting. Love is very interesting. I definitely don't see this relationship that I'm in right now. It has nothing to do with my other relationship. But I am in love. I am in love with that person, and I am in a different place of my life. It's interesting, the whole concept, right? It's like, I mean, I never had the opportunity to love somebody when I was a teenager, so I'm sure that would have been a completely different type of love, right?
Right.
So, but anyway, so that is an interesting concept. So now you have love 5 people.
5 people. There was even a point when I was maybe in the first, second, after maybe the second time I said I love you, I'm like, wait a second. Now my mind is blown, and I'm thinking, what? But I've said I love you 2 times now, and even in between those relationships, I've dated, right? I dated and met people and felt drawn toward other people, but if I was idolizing this concept of monogamy, but I was showing myself that I could love different people, I'm like, well, maybe I could be polyamorous. Maybe I could actually love, like, because there was this point between love number 1 and love number 2 where I was discerning whether or not I should just completely move on from love number 1 and completely shut down that, right? Because I had just kind of been figuring out life. It was like a heavy chapter in life. I was going to school. I was working. I just didn't feel like I had the time. It was a long distance experience. It just was really difficult at first love. And then I had broken up with him. I had reconnected with an old friend, and that was going to be love number 2 in time. I was talking to my mom at that point, and I'm thinking, yeah, but I don't know. Should I stay with love number 1? Should I continue that, or should I just move on? And I've reconnected with an old friend, and she's like, well, it seems like you don't love either one of them because you're kind of on the fence. It seems like you don't love either one of them completely. And that was like an aha moment for me. I'm thinking, oh, she's right. I don't love either one of them completely. Otherwise, I would be like fulfilled by just one of them. So then that's when I started awakening to the aspect that there are parts of myself. There's a part of myself that could be in this relationship. There's part of myself that could be with this person. So maybe perhaps I'm like a lover, and maybe I could love many different people. And at that point in life, I explored polyamory, and I learned real quick that was not for me.
That was not for you.
That was not for me. That's when other shadow aspects of the self come out, and they're like, woo, jealousy. And
yeah, I can.
No.
I can imagine.
No.
I can imagine how that. Wow. And how long did I go for?
Not very long.
Yeah.
Not very long.
Wow.
I mean, I just kind of dipped my toes in and pulled out. No,
You're like, I'm good.
I just was like, no.
You're like, oh, okay, bye.
But I did. But I did recognize that there are different aspects of yourself that we're, continuously changing and growing and evolving, and we can love different peoples for different reasons, and we do. We do. That's why we have different friends, for different reasons. But in partnership, I just found that quite fascinating. And in my marriage, I really thought that was going to be my person. And we grew so much from the start of that relationship until when it finished. I think maybe altogether we were together for 7 years. He was big into therapy and personal growth. And I appreciated personal growth. And I was always continuously exploring myself. And I was very spiritual, and he was very spiritual. And so together then I started seeing a therapist as an individual. And then we did so as partners in time after we had our children. But then in exploring ourselves, I feel like there was something that was, again, not fulfilled. There was something there that was a little bit missing. And I, in time, fell into this, like, what differentiates a friendship from a romantic relationship? What differentiates a platonic relationship from an intimate one? There wasn't that connection, the intimacy connection. There was something that was like not there for me. And so we kind of explored that for many years. We talked about it openly in therapy and with our coach. And there was a point in that relationship where I kind of was like, all right, well, I just don't need to be intimate then. And he was even coming to terms with that. That he also was like, all right, well then we don't have to be intimate.
Really?
Forever.
Really?
Yeah. And And I think I was at peace with that because I genuinely loved him as a person. And
but there was not that desire,
no.
like that sexual desire of being with that person at all.
No. Nope. I did not feel that. There was a comfort, like comfort in the cuddling maybe sometimes.
Right.
But it just was not there. So that was like, at that point, after so many years of being together, I remember there was a year, it was in 2021, the beginning of 2021, that I told myself, my intention this year is to have faith in the allowing of me, whatever that looks like. And I was doing a lot of self-care and medicine journeys, plant medicine journey work. And I was also holding space a lot. I was holding space for women's retreat that year. I had a lot going on, a lot of personal offerings. I teach yoga and meditation, hold space for cacao and other journey work. But I was really invested in myself. And I was in a breathwork journey with this woman who I really resonate with. And man, I just feel like our teachers, our mentors, they always ask and invite us into that one question that's just like,
right.
Especially in breath work. And I know you've experienced the results.
It's amazing.
It's
pretty amazing.
Yeah. So she presents something as we're breathing, and she says, I am not a problem to be fixed. And it was that statement, I am not a problem to be fixed, that I just had echoing in my mind. And I'm thinking, I'm not a problem to be fixed. I'm not a problem to be fixed. This whole time, for multiple years, I had been thinking to myself, if I'm not attracted, sexually to my husband, there must be a problem within me. So I had done so much work in those years, looking back into, childhood trauma, sexual trauma, just ways of my thinking, mentality. Maybe I wasn't in love with myself. Like maybe any judgment I have about you is really about me. Maybe I'm not in love with me. So let me get right with myself, and then I'll be able to love him, and then I'll feel drawn toward him romantically. I did past life regression. I did all kinds of things, Leo. And it was in that breathwork session when she said that, I'm not a problem to be fixed, that I thought to myself, wait a second. All of that was valuable. All of the work that I did, it was so valuable. And thank God I did all of that. And what if simultaneously, there's not a problem with me. There's just there's just not a connection there in that way. And so what came through with the breath, because in a breathwork session, for those who are not familiar with breathwork, the style of breathwork that I was observing in that moment is sort of a 3-part breath where you're breathing in through the belly, in through the heart, and then out the mouth. And you continue that breathing pattern because you're drawing everything up from the base of your feet, up the full length of your legs into the low belly, which is the solar plexus. Solar plexus is gut instincts, intuition, willpower, confidence, identity. And then whatever that shit that you're drawing up into there with your choice, right? This is your choice. You're then infusing it with that second breath that is love, that is your heart, that is true compassion. And then you're releasing it out the mouth and expressing it. So in that flow, I personally feel a connection with that which is gifting us this life experience. Life force, vitality, oxygen, prana. Ooh, the reason why I am alive, I'm through that breath connecting with source. Then the wisdom's able to come in. So I have like the mind concept and the intention. Then the true wisdom is like channeled, poured in through that portal that is then opened. And there was this response that I felt within me, outside of me, in me, everywhere around me, that was the second half of that statement. I'm not a problem to be fixed. I am a life to be lived. I am a life to be lived. And those two together, just like...
Such a powerful statement, right?
Yeah. How have I been dishonoring myself because I've been so focused on let me honor this person. Let me honor this person. Let me do what I can to fix myself to honor this person. It kind of makes me emotional. That I had been dishonoring myself in that aspect, like setting aside whatever I don't know what word to use, like aspects of myself, kind of quieting them down. Like I love connecting intimately. I love that. And I was just okay with not doing it because I just wanted to honor this person and the commitment that we had within each other.
That promise that you guys had.
The promise.
It comes down to that promise, right?
Yeah. So there's this book, and it is called The Invitation, written by Oriah. And there's this beautiful poem that she has. It's the beginning poem. It's called The Invitation. And there's some line in there that says something like this. I want to know if you're able to be seen as faithless in order to be faithful to yourself. Like, are you willing to betray the others so that you do not ever betray yourself?
Wow.
And I started thinking and started feeling, the ways in which I was discounting and bypassing aspects of myself just to.
I totally agree, and I totally can relate to what you're saying. Because a lot of times, most times, like we want to please people, right? And that is something that is, culturally, I see it with my mother. She is, pure love. And I'm sure your mom is too, like it's just, they want to cater to you. They want to make sure that you have everything, that you need everything. I mean, if I allowed it, my mom would come every single week and do my laundry and wash my everything, right?
Sweet
But of
mama.
course, I know I cannot allow that, I mean, I just cannot, I couldn't do it. But it's literally selfless love. Like they give themselves to that. And we grow up around it because we're empathetic people, or empathic people. We pick up on that, and I don't recall having any major traumas growing up, but that to me made sense, right? That my father was the typical Mexican macho. He takes care of the home. He takes care of his family. He was always there. Always. He was never missing. He was always working hard, always doing everything for everyone. And my mom was a stay-at-home mom, took care of every single need that needed to be taken care at home. But she has always been a loving woman, right? So once again, like I was saying, it's like we pick up on that because we're like, oh, that makes sense. That feels good. It makes some other people feel good.
Yeah.
But we're not taught that there has to be a balance, right?
Yes.
And that's what we lack. Okay, then again, we go back to our moms living their life and seeing how, it works for them, but then we realize that we're in a completely different time. Different generation.
Yeah.
Different society.
Yep.
It might have worked back then, but maybe now, not that it doesn't work, but there's some adjustments that need to be made.
Yeah.
Because people will take advantage of that. And I'm sure we're both very familiar with that. People will take advantage of goodwill people, right? And that's something that I had to learn the hard way again, right? Where you're like always giving and giving and giving, and especially women. I mean, in my situation, right? Um, I had a lot of women taking advantage of that. You know, and you're like, wait a second, but what do you mean a woman is taking advantage of that? I always heard it was the other way around. Guys taking advantage of good women. Now here am I in this experiencing the opposite, being taken advantage by women. Right? It was almost surreal. Where you're like, wait, what? Like, wait, does that happen? You know, like a guy is being taken advantage, and I'm talking in the sense of I was always a nice guy. And this is such an interesting concept, right? Because the one saying that you always hear is like, nice guys always finish last. And it is true. Whichever way you want to see it, it's true. Now, I'm not saying don't be a nice guy. Be a nice guy, but have a balance.
Absolutely.
Be a little bit of a dick. You have to be a little bit of a dick. Because that keeps that balance, right? So I cannot always be saying yes, sure. Because then guess what? The other person is going to be like, you're a pushover. I can do whatever I want with you. So there has to be a balance. Not to be like, wait a second. All right. Like, what's going on? You know? But I had that. And I think in this case, and this is something that I didn't realize until obviously later on in life, because of the fact that I was always surrounded by women, my sisters, my mother. And I always liked being around women. I enjoy being around women all my life because it was comfortable. It was safe. Women liked me, right? So for me, it was like, oh, this is cool. I enjoy this. But I didn't realize that it was also affecting me in my experience, right? It was not so much of a positive thing because my masculine energy was not balanced with my feminine energy. So my feminine energy was very dominant for a very long time. I want to say up until my 30s, like 33, 34. Excuse me. Because again, pleasing people, right? Not really having a voice. So when it came down to relationships, women sense that. Women sense weakness. That's one thing that one of my yoga instructors told me. She told me, she's like, women sense weakness and they will prey on that. And I was like, ooh, interesting. And eventually, I learned. And not that they're doing it in a bad way. Because most people will not do that stuff intentionally. Right? Most people, it's a habit that they had throughout their lives. It's something that it's a preconditioned stuff that's how they are. That's how they react. Not because they're like, oh, here it is, this guy is weak, I'm going to mess him up, right? I don't see it that case. Maybe there are women like that. Maybe they're not. I don't know. I'm sure there are. But what I'm saying is like, not having that balanced energy made it very difficult to have a relationship with a woman. A real relationship with a woman. So I had to learn how to balance it. I had to tap into that masculine and be like, hey, bro, wake up. And it was easy because it's an innate thing. It's inside of me already. I mean, my father is pretty much that, like in my eyes, he's the epitome of, masculinity, right? So for me, it was easy to tap into it. You just had to really okay, so what's going on? And then it's really had to start to recognize situations where I had to tap into that energy. And once again, it wasn't difficult. But here, this is something that happens very often. When somebody's healing, I don't know if it's happened to you, but when somebody's healing from whatever situation is that's going on in your life, you kind of run away with it, right? Like you're through that healing process, and you are like feeling that power trip of like, oh, I like this. This feels good. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then you need to catch yourself again and be like, whoa, okay, okay, bring it back. Bring it down a notch. I know you're a man. Like in my case, right? It's like, again, I know you're a man. I know you're fucking masculine. I know you are now for whatever you want to call it. Now balance it out with the feminine.
Yeah.
And that's at least that has been my experience. It's like having that balance of that masculine energy and that feminine energy. When in a lot of cases, a lot of men don't have that feminine energy
Mm-hmm.
because for them, they don't see that it's a good thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, oh, I'm not feminine. No, I'm not saying that you have to be feminine,
Mm-hmm.
but understand that feminine side of things,
Right.
right? And for me, it has been nothing but a blessing to have that opportunity of experience that feminine energy for many years. Maybe it was a little too long, 30 something years, but having that opportunity of experiencing that feminine energy and now being able to balance it with my masculine energy. And I consider myself that like, oh, I understand it. I can relate now. I can understand where women come from, their thoughts, their feelings, why they can be sometimes emotional, instead of like, oh, what is this? What's going on? Why do they get like that? It's like, I get it. I understand that. So it's been a really interesting experience. So anyway, so with Deborah now, with my partner that I'm with now, it's really cool to. I want to say this is probably the first relationship where I have my masculine energy, and having that good balance. Whereas before there was something missing, and that's probably one of the reasons why relationships were not working as they
Wow.
should. Because I was missing a very important part of my humanity.
Yeah. Yeah. I can personally relate. I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. In my marriage, I can't even tell you how many times my ex-husband had told me that I was too masculine. And I mean, you know me for a year.
Mm-hmm.
Would you? I don't know if anybody. I don't even know if anybody outside of that experience would ever have called me too masculine. But he's not wrong. I witnessed myself in that.
Right.
And I think it was because, again, I think he was out of balance perhaps, and I was out of balance. The roles were out of balance. And there is something that is special about that sacred masculinity, that divine feminine. There is something about that when in harmony, I just think the energies really react together beautifully, really beautifully. They complement each other. They harmonize with one another. And yeah, I think that he was, he's very soft and feminine and has that aspect. And so my masculine needed to come out. In this relationship now, like you're experiencing in your partnership with Deb, my partner is very masculine. So it feels so nice to be able to be feminine. It feels so nice. And I can still weave in those other aspects of me that was that strong female, my masculine aspects or parts of myself too. Mm-hmm. But it just feels a lot more balanced and complementary. And yeah, I think that just promotes a more harmonious relationship to begin with.
And that, like, and you feel like you're being true to yourself.
Yes.
Right? Like it flows.
It flows
really easy. Like you feel like, oh my God. Like you're not on edge. You're not trying. I think this is a good example where you can use the word trying. Like where you're trying.
Yeah, because it's forced. Because it's not natural in a sense. Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. Right? Like it. Like I see it, and that's one thing that that Deb has too, and she has a very, very strong masculine energy, like crazy. But with me, she's able to same thing to relax it, to bring it down. It's like, and it feels good. She's a very feminine woman, but to know that she also has that, I find it really attractive when there's a woman that is like they can have both energies, because you know that they don't have to be so dependent on you. If anything was to happen, you're like, she's got it. I have faith in her that she can. I will be right behind her, rooting her, going for her. Like, yeah, that's. I find it pretty cool, as opposed to somebody that is like extremely feminine all the time. Right. It's like, once again, balance. It's such a freaking interesting concept. And Patricia?
Yes.
I can only call her Patricia. There is so many more things that we can talk about, and I'm sure we can keep going for thousands of hours, which I'm sure we're going to be able to do that eventually. Like, I would love for you to come back again and keep doing this, more often. And I really appreciate you coming, talk about your life, share with us about your experiences. And once again, we didn't even touch, like most of the things that I wanted to talk about, but we'll have plenty of time in the future. And I appreciate you coming and being my first guest in this new project that I'm starting. And I couldn't have chosen a better human to do it with. I'm very blessed to have you here. I'm very blessed to be your friend. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Leo. Blessings on this journey.
Yes, let's do it. Let's make it happen. Thank you again.